offer from Ms. Lerner's attorney to provide a proffer to the committee. I want that proffer. I wanted to hear what her attorney would have said. And I want that information. I think that the entire committee is entitled to that information. As a matter of fact, I think the Congress is. It doesn't give her immunity, and it does not bind the committee. But it could have given us some of the information the chairman was asking about on yesterday. As a matter of fact, he asked Ms. Lerner some 10 questions. And all of those could have been, after she pled the fifth, those could have been answered by a proffer from her attorney. So we ended up not getting any information. So not only were Chairman Issa's actions an abuse of authority, they were in fact counterproductive. In my opinion, the House Republicans have abandoned responsible oversight by repeatedly declining to take basic investigative steps, promoting unnecessary political conflict, and making false claims about the White House. Last year, before the committee received any documents or interviewed any witnesses, Chairman Issa claimed on national television, and I quote, "This was the targeting of the president's political enemies, effectively, and lies about it during the election year," end of quote. The problem is that even Inspector General Russell George found no evidence of any White House involvement or political motivation. The committee has now interviewed 38,000 employees who have all said the same thing. There was no White House involvement or political motivation. An IRS official in Cincinnati, a self-identified conservative Republican manager, told us the same thing. It is interesting that that gentleman has never been brought before the committee. It started with him. Yet, Republicans remain fixated on falsely accusing the White House of targeting its political enemies, wasting millions of dollars in an attempt to reignite their partisan inquiry before the November elections. Sadly, this is only one example of a larger pattern of unsubstantiated claims. Just 2 weeks ago, Chairman Issa claimed at a Republican fundraiser in New Hampshire that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton told Leon Panetta to stand down after the attacks in Benghazi. The Washington Post fact checker gave him 4 Pinocchios for this claim. Last fall, it gave him 4 Pinocchios when he said Hillary Clinton personally authorized security reductions in Benghazi because a State Department cable had her name on it. And just this past Sunday, Chairman Issa went on national television and basically repeated these claims again. So the Post fact checker gave him 4 more Pinocchios. Honestly, I can't keep up with all of Chairman Issa's Pinocchios. I understand that the House Republicans have already called it quits in terms of legislating any more this year. But the result is that all they have left with are these reckless and abusive investigations. This is a huge waste of taxpayer resources, and it does absolutely nothing for the American people. We need to raise the minimum wage. We need to enhance the earned income tax credit. We need to ensure that our citizens get health care. In short, we need to do the work that the American people sent us to Washington to do. And now it gives me a privilege to introduce the chairman of the Ways and Means, the ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee. Oh, Mr. Levin, I'm sorry.
Let me just try to place this in context. As you know, the Ways and Means Committee, as well as government oversight, have had jurisdiction over this matter. And from the beginning, it was clear what the Republicans were after. There was zero evidence of political motivation. We've had 5 hearings, Ways and Means. $14 million has been spent by IRS. So, with no evidence, what's going on here? The political motivation isn't that of anybody but the Republicans. I remember the first hearing that we had, the chairman said there was a culture of cover-up. There was zero evidence of this. So what's happening here is that the Republicans are determined to keep this issue of the IRS alive as part of their twin strategy, attacking health care and essentially claiming, without any foundation, political motivation, trying to tie it to the White House. Well, what happened yesterday, and I saw, Elijah, the tape on it, I found it hard to believe, except the history of the chairman. Essentially, what happened yesterday was this political strategy of the Republicans going berserk. And I just want to say one last thing. I've been told, when asked by some of you of the speaker what he thought, he said that the chairman was in his rights or something like that. That can't be the protocol of this institution. When I saw Darrell Issa in action yesterday, I thought back of all my years here, and I think he has brought this to an unbearable crescendo. It has to stop. A privilege resolution was filed today. I hope it can be brought up, and I hope the Republicans will decide there is some water's edge to politics. I guess next will be another gentleman from Michigan, the ranking member on Judiciary, Mr. Conyers.
Thank you. You're almost as nice and polite as Elijah Cummings himself. I appreciate that. I'm here merely to point out on the committee that I've been on longer than anybody else on the Judiciary Committee. It's beginning to show a little bit of partisanship. And one of the things that is disturbing to me is that we get bills that are clearly going nowhere, that the Senate probably has a stack of bills from the House Judiciary, the Senate Judiciary Committee, in which they point out that they have no intention of taking them up. And so we keep sending them frequently tired old bills limiting abortion rights, sometimes bashing immigrants, favoring or taking it easy on corporate polluters and other wrongdoers. And we're considering even today another anti-regulatory bill that will force agencies to prioritize speed over safety and private interests over public good. And so we're hoping that we can discontinue this democracy suspended business and urge our chairman to discontinue obstructing the legislative process and sometimes ignoring the priorities of the American people. Thank you.
Well, it's great to be here with my colleagues to talk about this serious issue. I think last fall, during the 16-day government shutdown, you saw Republicans suspend democracy in the entire House of Representatives when they actually changed the rules in order to continue shutting down the government. And what we saw yesterday was democracy being suspended in committees of the House of Representatives. It was an incredible abusive process, trying to shut down the ability of Mr. Cummings to make his statement. And we hope that we're not going to see a continuation of this throughout the House of Representatives. It's really unfortunate because as a result of the antics and abuse we saw from Mr. Issa, we're not able to focus on the things the American people want to be focused on. We were focused yesterday in the Budget Committee trying to talk about the proposals the President has put forward to create more jobs in the country, to expand opportunity to more people in the country. And yet, on the floor of the House, we were voting for the 50th time to end the Affordable Care Act. And in the Oversight and Government Affairs Committee, we saw an effort to shut down democracy in order to try to protect this failing narrative that Republicans have about this political conspiracy coming out of the White House. They have not a shred of evidence. They're getting frustrated. And instead of owning up to that failure, they're lashing out and engaging in an abusive process. The last thing I want to say about this is that with respect to the IRS issues, what Republicans are deadly afraid of is that the public will find out who is spending the millions and millions of dollars to try to influence elections around the country, what interests are trying to buy a Congress that will help adopt policies to support those special interests. That goes to the core of the issue. This is not, as Republicans would have you believe, about First Amendment rights and right to engage in the political process. People can spend as much money in elections these days as they want, period. The question is whether the public has a right to know who is financing those campaigns. And for some reason, Republicans are really afraid of letting the public know who is trying to spend gobs and gobs of money to influence these elections. And that is their core concern. And again, as 8 of the 9 Supreme Court justices have said, transparency is important to accountability, and accountability is fundamental to our democracy. And again, you see Republicans simply trying to shut down and suspend democracy in the House of Representatives, and it's a sad day for the United States Congress. And I'm now pleased to introduce the terrific ranking member of, the Rules Committee, Louise Slaughter, has been a champion of these years.
Oh, thank you so much. Good morning. I'm delighted to be here with my friends this morning. We have sort of reached the boiling point. And I want to say to you, because none of you look particularly interested in what we're doing up here, that this is really an important piece of work we're talking about here today, because democracy is under threat. What has happened in this place week after week in the House of Representatives is nothing short of legislative malpractice. The Congress of the United States used to be the gold standard of legislatures. And we went by Jefferson's manuals year after year after year, Congress after Congress, doing what we could in making this the most incredible country on earth. And now what are we doing? I want to give you numbers. I'm going to be brief and talk about it. What happened yesterday to Ranking Member Cummings, this is the first time I think the ranking members have gotten together to complain. What happened was so outrageous, so demeaning, so unjudicial, so awful in every respect that we just absolutely have reached the boiling point. I have been up for it, and you all, if you pay attention at all to Rules, which is a pretty powerful committee, you know that I've been telling you for years here, the last 2 years anyway, that every week we are here, the estimated cost, please write this down, the estimated cost of running the House of Representatives for 1 week is $24 million, okay? Now, the first 33 times that we voted to kill the health care bill, it took 80 hours of legislative work and cost about $48 million. So it's gone way beyond that now. What happened, you've heard about the IRS, was that all the money that they have been spent for nothing. Because we don't do legislation that is intended to ever become law in this land, and I think secretly many of them are glad for that, but because we come here, 435 of us are brought here every week to do what basically amounts to a press release. Please pay some attention to that. The public needs to know. If you have a House of Representatives that talks about nothing but cost, nothing but spending, that will take away food stamps, that thinks it's immoral to help with unemployment insurance, but is throwing money away by the buckets full on a useless legislative process here that goes nowhere, and they don't want it to. Now, last election, 1.4 million people more voted Democrat than Republican for the House of Representatives. When we get all the closed bills that we get from the Rules Committee, I want you to realize what that means. That means that half the population of the United States, their representatives, are not going to have amendments. Whatever they may want on the bill, whatever they may want to do is not going to be considered. You call that democracy? Please, for goodness sake, think about what is happening here. We're going to come back next week, and we're going to take some old bills out of the Judiciary Committee, John, and try again to humiliate in whatever way they can the President of the United States, to try to insinuate that the man is a lawbreaker. I mean, we have sunk to such a low when it comes to legislation. Yesterday, and I want every last one of you to have a piece of it, we put in the record 50 pieces of legislation crying out for attention. But we do the same thing over and over and over again. It's almost gotten to the point where we could stay home and somebody could just go in a room and put repeat on the record player and have it all over again. It is full of sound and fury, meaning nothing. And they want it that way. It is to stimulate their base, whatever it is. But for goodness sakes, every week it's let's destroy the EPA. And I know you've seen this. All regulation is bad, they say. So that all the things that we worked for all these years so that you could breathe clean air, drink clean water, eat safe food, all that means absolutely nothing. And so that's why we're here today. We have got to get the public aroused, that the public knows what is happening here. Nothing. Nothing. And for reasons that I really cannot understand, all of you who are so brilliant, and I read you every day, and never take my eyes off the news. I haven't even been able to read a book in 2 years because I have to watch what you guys are doing all the time. Never say a word about it. Not a thing. You may say, most unproductive Congress in history and all if you go on to another direction. Think what the money that is being wasted here week after week to make a political statement is costing us, not just in terms of infrastructure, education, health care, but what it's costing to our self-respect and the way we look to the rest of the people in this world. And so I'm so happy to be here today. I feel really liberated somewhat today that we're saying we pay attention here. We need everybody to know exactly what's going on here. We're doing our part. We all show up. We go through the motions, but Jefferson's manual is absolutely not a part of what we're doing here. And Abraham Lincoln's adage can be proved again once more. You can fool some of the people all of the time. A strong press paying attention to the government helps us not to be doing that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Questions? Yes.
So yesterday you told me at the beginning that this wasn't about whether Chairman Issa disrespected you. Today you're calling on him to apologize. And the Speaker's law yesterday, though, he said that it's your conduct that you should be apologizing to him.
Well, what I said was I wasn't going to get caught up in the disrespect issue. Because I see much of this as a distraction. That's what I said. If I apologize for the fact that Chairman Issa could have yesterday gotten a proffer and failed to do so, a proffer from the attorney. We could have gotten information. Apologize for our committee not addressing issues that the American people want us to address, like the Target credit card fiasco, mortgage lenders who have admitted that they have failed the American people, hospitals, most of which in the United States have a shortage of life-saving drugs. These are the kinds of issues that we ought to be dealing with. But yet and still we hold 25 hearings on the Affordable Care Act. So, you know, I said I wouldn't go, I don't want to get caught up in that. This is not the first time, by the way, that Chairman Issa has shut mics down. And at some point, we have to have and my point in the committee yesterday was we have to have the quorum in these committees. And you cannot shut out the minority party. In other words, basically what happened yesterday is Chairman Issa wanted to hold a hearing and then shut it down before the Democrats could have one syllable. There's absolutely something wrong with that picture, and I would hope that Speaker Boehner would not want that kind of situation. I can't imagine one of my colleagues, I can't even imagine them if they were chairpersons denying, shutting down a mic. I just can't imagine it. And I meant what I said. It is un-American. It is unfair. And I reminded the Chairman Issa that each one of my colleagues on that Democratic side, we too are elected by 700,000 people, and they deserve a voice. So, you know, I still think that, again, Chairman Issa had been negotiating with the attorney for Ms. Lerner. He didn't include us in that process, by the way. And apparently there was some efforts the attorney was agreeing to do a proffer. For some reason, Chairman Issa shut that down, didn't accept the proffer. And what my efforts was trying to simply get to the point of getting a proffer from the attorney so that the attorney would tell us what he would have said, what she would have said if she had answered the questions. That's all. And again, he shut me down because he did not want to hear what I was saying or what he thought I would say. That is un-American. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Look, here's what happens up at the Rules Committee. We get these old worked over bills that they just, sometimes I think they write them in a basement room somewhere down here. An awful lot of them have had no committee process, whatever. Often we are called in for an emergency meeting to do something. As I said again, it is simply part of what the message that they are trying to get to their base. But while they're doing that, and they can be doing that on their own time, as I point out, the infrastructure in this country is falling apart. But yes, that's what they're going to do. They're going to bring back those old bills. As you know, the constant haranguing of the president, I really thought the article the other day about how can he be feckless and trembling and imperial at the same time. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever been able to do that, maybe the Wizard of Oz. But it's just part of the denigration of the presidency. And I think it does us all a great deal of harm, as well as I think the charade that goes on here that passes for a legislature does the same thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me first of all go back to what this gentleman asked, and I'm going to come to you again. One of the things that came up yesterday that we found out while Chairman Issa was asking the questions of Ms. Lerner was that apparently there had been negotiations and talk between she, Issa, and her attorney, and they had asked for a postponement. That's what we found out yesterday, a postponement, and apparently maybe it sounded like she was willing to come forth in a week. For some reason, Chairman Issa would not grant that postponement. The question is he afraid of what she might say? I'm not sure. Then as far as the contempt is concerned, you know, all along, keep in mind, what happened is her attorney, from the very beginning, before the last hearing, wrote to us and said she was going to assert the Fifth. She came in, she made a statement, she asserted the Fifth. And because she made that statement, they claimed that she had waived it. Again, I think her intention was to assert the Fifth. Our experts have told us that she did not waive that right, so we stand by that. We don't think that she's waived her Fifth Amendment rights. And I'm going to stand up for the Constitution. And I think that when somebody's attorney has told them, has said it, when they have said it, it certainly shows an intent to do it. And I think basically we should not necessarily be in a gotcha kind of situation when it comes to people's rights, or anybody's rights.
Yeah, but isn't you're a senior IRS official who's taking a Fifth Amendment because she won't answer questions about what they did.
I want to hear, by the way, I want to hear what she has to say. That's why I asked for the proffer.
But she's trying to take the Fifth here. I mean, she's not like she's being cooperative. You're fighting over her taking the Fifth.
No. You know, I practiced law for quite a few years. When it comes to the Constitution, we all, you and everybody in this room, have a right against self-incrimination, period. Any of us can assert that in the appropriate forum. Well, once that's asserted, that's her. I mean, she has a right to do that. That's the Constitution. That's all I'm saying. Now, you may argue with that one way or another. It's not about, I want to hear what she said. I wish she would testify. But at the same time, as I've said to my committee, I respect the Constitution. Because without the Constitution, I wouldn't be standing here.
Me either.
Can you talk more about the formal response to this? There was a privilege resolution or something that was filed.
The privilege resolution was filed because of the egregious violation of the House rules and the abuse of process by Chairman Issa. And if this House of Representatives is going to function as it should in a democracy, people have to abide by the rules. And the rules are designed to ensure a democratic process. They're designed to make sure that all the people's views are represented. And when you violate those rules, you're locking out democracy, and that's what's happened. And in order to make sure we keep the norm of conduct in the House of Representatives, in order to protect the democratic process, it's really important to hold people accountable when they violate the rules. And you know, you asked the earlier question about the president and legislation. It was asked on his authority. I would just point out that there's some Republican members of the House who think that the president exceeded his authority when he was sworn in as President of the United States. When he was sworn in as the United States. And they have never accepted the fact that he is President of the United States. And there's some members here who apparently don't accept the fact that this is supposed to be a democratic institution. It's supposed to be the people's house. Yes, there's a majority, but the majority has to play by the rules in order to protect democracy. And what you saw yesterday was an incredible violation of those rules.
I have not talked to him, but I can tell you this. A number of Republican members on our committee have come up and said to me, don't tell him, I apologize. You shouldn't have been treated that way. A number of them are Republicans on our committee. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.